major revelation in the white-collar terror investigation. Now, investigators say that the radicalization of the doctors who were involved in the Red Fort blast began as early as 2019. And all of this unfolded entirely through social media. Now, officials say that this marks a dangerous shift in cross-border terror strategy, with now highly educated professionals being recruited digitally by handlers who are based in Pakistan and other countries. Now, according to the probe, the accused doctors, Muzammil Ganei, Adil Rathir, Muzaffar Rathir and Umar ul Nabi, the suicide bomber in the blast, they were first spotted on open platforms such as Facebook and X, and then they were moved to private Telegram groups where the actual indoctrination began. Investigators say that the group used YouTube as well to learn how to assemble IEDs, while handlers like Ukasa, Faizan, Hashmi guided them from abroad. Two of the doctors are now in NIA custody. One fled to Afghanistan and of course the other one, Umar, carried out the November 10 blast near the Red Fort. Now the investigation has also uncovered how this terror module evolved. First, from an online recruitment cell to an active terror network that spanned multiple areas including Kashmir, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh. Remember, this is where in fact 2,900 kilograms of explosives material was later recovered. Now, officials say that this chain of events, it began with Jaish-e-Mohammed posters first appearing outside Srinagar on October 18th and 19th. This then prompted police to launch the investigation that ultimately cracked the entire terror module. Now, officials warn that since 2018, terror groups have increasingly relied on encrypted apps, VPNs and AI-generated propaganda to radicalize their recruits and train them virtually, a trend which has been flagged repeatedly by the United Nations as well. And now shifting focus, tensions continue to simmer within the Tata Trust after a contentious September 11th meeting that blocked the nomination of Vijay Singh to the Tata Sons board. Now, despite the departure of Mehli Mistry from the trust, the organization remains still divided over the manner in which a group of trustees stalled Singh's reappointment. Now, senior Tata Group director has admitted that the handling of the meeting was deeply flawed. It led to the trust losing a seat on the Tata Sons board, attracting unwanted government attention and generating intense public scrutiny as well. Now, viewers, the disagreement has stemmed from a 4-3 split among trustees, an unusual departure from the consensus-driven tradition which has been upheld by Ratan Tata. Now, the fallout at this point has exposed clear blocks within the trust, one led by Darius Khambata, Pramit Jhaveri, Mehli Mistry and Jehangir, and the other one which aligns with Noel Tata, Vijay Singh and Venu Srinivasan. Khambata here has expressed regret over the internal discord and also its impact on individuals who are involved in this. So, with the Tata Trust holding about 66% of the Tata Sons, the internal rift now carries significant implications. Now, at present, only Noel Tata and Venu Srinivasan represent the trust on the Tata Sons board. But this episode has reinforced concerns about fractured leadership, unresolved differences that continue to now overshadow one of India's most influential philanthropic organizations. So that's the latest we're getting as the crisis within the Tata Trust continues to deepen. Now there seems to be two blocs who still have differences to resolve at this point. All right, and now some international developments coming in. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Johannesburg. Now here, the two leaders reviewed the progress made in India-Canada ties and also agreed to push forward in a big way. Both the sides have now decided to start talks on a high-ambition trade pact, the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, CEPA. The goal here is very clear, to double bilateral trade to about $50 billion by 2030. Now, the two leaders also reaffirmed their long-standing civil nuclear cooperation, noting that the ongoing discussions on expanding this partnership, including a possible long-term uranium supply agreements. Prime Minister Modi also invited Prime Minister Carney to visit India as part of the discussions. And now viewers, shifting focus, F-16 Viper demonstration team commander Heister. He wrote in a post on Instagram that his team chose to cancel their final performance at the Dubai Air Show alongside a few others out of respect for the Indian pilot wing commander Namansh Sayal, his colleagues and his family. Now Major Taylor Heister of the F-16 Viper demo team has publicly even criticized the organizers for continuing the show as if nothing had happened. In his Instagram post, he said that his team cancelled their final performance out of respect for the Indian pilot who lost his life in the Tejas crash, his colleagues and his family. Heister even wrote that after the fire was put out, organizers told him that flying display would continue. And when he walked back through the venue later, he expected it to be quiet, but instead, the announcer was still upbeat and the crowd kept cheering for the next acts. He says it felt uncomfortable to imagine his own team walking out to loud music if he had been the one lost that day. Now, in a sharp reminder, he also added that the show must go on. That's what they say. But remember, someone will say that after you're gone too. Now earlier, the mortal remains of Wing Commander Namansh Sayal were brought to his native village in Kangra. The Indian Air Force at present operates two Tejas squadrons from Sulur Air Force Base. This is where the mortal remains of the Wing Commander Namansh Sayal, who tragically lost his life at the Dubai Air Show. They were brought to his native village in Kangra.